I'm here with
I'm Gus Brennan.
Gus. Where are you coming from today?
I am the head grower at Greenswell Growers. We're a 1.5 acre leafy greens greenhouse in Richmond, Virginia.
All right. What'd you think of the event so far today?
It was great. I think this was a really great spot for growers to connect and to hear some awesome research that's going on in ways that directly affect me. And even though it's just been one day, I heard about 5 things that I'm going to implement as soon as I get home.
Awesome. Can you just tell us about one of those things, maybe?
Yeah. A little bit more crop registration that we intend to do in our greenhouse. So I think Dr. Laura Batista mentioned measuring dry weight as well as fresh weight to really understand how crispy your product is.
Yeah, that
And
was
so
nice.
I think that's a really good another metric for us to capture.
Yeah, and do the retailer? You guys grow some unique varieties there at Greenswell, and do you get a lot of feedback from the consumers?
Nothing through our retailers. All feedback from consumers is pretty organic. So it's, some friend of a friend said, "Hey, we love your product." And the things that we hear is crunchy, shelf life, and then sweet, but really crunchy and shelf life are the biggest ones. So if that dry weight helps us improve crunchiness, then that's a win.
W- Uh, Talk a little bit about your competition that might be coming from Salinas, California, or Yuma, Arizona. If you were to buy some normal packaged lettuce, how long is it? In Virginia, you're a long ways away. So, how long does that last?
So we have a 21-day rated shelf life from when we harvest it until when it says best buy. And I think from Salinas, California, it's probably 10 to 14 days. And then you lose whatever that shipping time is between 5 and maybe 10 days before it's in the supermarket. So something from out west might be 3, 4, 5 days in your fridge. Whereas for us, we grow it within 2 days, it's in the supermarket, and then 19 more days in your fridge. So 3 weeks in the fridge is pretty big. And that's one of the things we always hear from our customers.
That's huge. And how do you guys communicate that on your packaging or anything? And what do you say? Because I think that's a great thing that everybody should know about. Because and you really don't know until you try. And that package has been in your refrigerator for 3 weeks, and then you get it out and it's still good. It's like something you've never experienced before.
Yeah, I think a lot of people realize it when they forget about the package. It sits back there, and then, 5 weeks later, they open it and say, huh, it's still good. So, in terms of our packaging, we do say long lasting lettuce. And that's something that we actually added after about a year or 2 years because we didn't realize how important that was we knew that was important for the consumer, but we didn't realize like how quickly they would notice and how much we needed to advertise that. So not only our packaging but some of our social media material, we also like to highlight the long shelf life.
That's nice. And I can imagine it only really takes a buyer once to really come back to that product as well, just knowing that they're going to get that quality, that crunch, and even the longevity that you normally wouldn't get. So that's great that that was a takeaway to measure the dry mass. I've been looking at that for a while, and it's sometimes it's about even if you are able to increase the dry mass, but is that product what the consumer wants? Is that to that spec, that 8 centimeter spec or whatever you're going for?
Yeah.
Sometimes that's difficult to balance everything that we're trying to balance in the
Yeah,
greenhouse.
exactly. Yeah, I think just figuring out a couple more metrics and figuring out those quality metrics are tough because I might like the product, but who knows if the customer does. So if we can put numbers to the things that we're getting feedback on, then we can hit that target every time.
Awesome. Now, we talked a lot about hybrid systems, high pressure sodium, putting off heat today. You all are growing with high pressure sodium today. Got some LED trials going on, I understand. Can you tell me about kind of your thought process from what we learned today about radiant heat and the lettuce leaves kind of liking that and how you plan to transition? And I think you're going to go in a kind of a phased hybrid approach, right?
Yep. So we are fully high pressure sodium right now, but we do intend to do a hybrid retrofit. So swap out half of our old bulbs for LEDs, and that will really help us in the summer. That's one of our toughest months in
Okay.
central Virginia. It's super hot and super humid, so we don't love all the extra heat that we're getting from our high pressure sodiums. And so we believe we can run our LEDs more for a higher total light, but we can keep that temperature down. Now in the winter, we're going to be really happy that we kept half of those high pressure sodiums in. But I will say we plan on expanding and building another 3 acres, and we intend to do full LED for that build. And so we will plan into the climate system and the heating loads, cooling loads, the fact that we'll have only LEDs.
Awesome. Thanks, Gus. Now, there's going to be some folks out here that are interested in the industry and not really sure where to start. If you could give somebody who's interested in hydroponics and high-tech vertical farming or whatever it might be in the industry, what kind of advice would you give them?
So first thing is like get some experience growing a plant, whether that's just gardening or doing some house plants, maybe try hydroponics at home. I think that's a great way to get a little bit of knowledge. And then if you want a job, you just got to start knocking on doors of greenhouses. Any type of greenhouse, whether it's high tech, medium tech, low tech, you're going to learn a lot of really applicable things. And you might even learn things at a low tech greenhouse that a high tech greenhouse we have no idea about. Useful techniques. So experience is critical. Get your hands on the plant. Even if you don't want to be a grower, even if you want to be a logistics person, marketing, food safety, getting your hands on some plants and experience moving plants, seeing how they work will be huge for a career in this field.
Yeah, that's so great that you say that because I see folks that come from different sectors of marketing, let's say, where they've marketed alcohol and tobacco, and then they come in here and they just haven't really experienced that, and there's really a disadvantage to their efforts, I think, compared to somebody that's grown a plant or grown up with it in their past. So, one last question: what would you say the next 5 years looks like under this new administration?
So I think the cost of building has gone up. I think we've already seen that with some of the tariffs. I think there's a little bit of confusion about where everything's going to lay. So right now, in the immediate term, it seems like there's just a pause to feel out what things are going to happen. But I see, some of these big players, they're going to keep expanding. Even this year, I foresee some of the guys building more acreage. I think we're kind of a medium to small scale. A couple of us are going to persist and stay through. A couple of us are going to get bought up. And I just see a little bit of mergers, but I still think that there's unique markets and places for a grower like us to service our local community in a way that a larger grower might not be able to, go to the grocery store and meet their end use customer. And so we feel good about where we're at, and I think the industry is going to keep growing, even though it's going to be a tough couple years. But that's what we do. We just log on, we just grow lettuce.
Awesome. Actually, that wasn't my last question. I have another question because you're doing such a good job on this interview. It's great. All right, so we have this Make America Healthy Again. Now, how do you think our industry can participate into that whole theme, right? There's a lot of talk about regenerative farming, and CEA is as we learned today, it's a very small fraction, less than 5% maybe is coming from greenhouses into the market. So what do you think that we need to do to kind of be in the front running position there with this administration to get noticed and maybe get the support of the USDA and other federal agencies to really bolster the growth in this segment?
I think one thing to focus on, and it relates in some ways, but one thing that we like to do is we open our doors to classrooms and students to make sure we get a lot of students into the building to see that this is a new type of production system. Not all farming is driving a tractor or being out in the Midwest or the West. Again, nothing wrong with those guys. They work hard and they do an awesome job. But this is a different style, and so educating the youth is a really good way to get people involved in their food systems and see that healthy local lettuce is grown nearby and it tastes fantastic. And so I think that's one way that we can assist with the end-use customer in making themselves healthy. I think when you look at it at a larger scale, business assistance and grants are really important for an industry that's young like ours. It's difficult and it requires a lot of focus, and so if mistakes are made and they ruin your business, that's really difficult. So if there's a little bit more wiggle room and some assistance from the government, I think that would really help this industry.
I agree. Thanks for your time, Gus. Appreciate it.